Hello everyone, welcome. This is a quick little tutorial on how to toggle your cameras around with Scaleform. So we're going to be using Scaleform to basically put a couple buttons on our screen, and we're going to be able to jump from camera to camera to camera based off of which camera we select. I've also put a little toggle node in so that we can switch from wide angle to narrow angle. Just a little extra bonus because the guy wanted to see how to use the toggle nodes specifically. All right, so without further ado, let's jump into this and see what we're going to do. Now, the first thing we're going to need is a Scaleform action. Okay, so or Scaleform buttons. So let's jump into Scaleform. In order to be able to launch Scaleform, you would go Window and go Scaleform Studio. I happen to have it open already, so here it is. And just be aware, you will have to save your Scaleform file, and you should save your Scaleform file in the UI folder of your project. Okay, so do make sure you do that. Just go, File. As soon as you open the project or create a new project, you would go New Project, and then you're going to go File, Save Project As, and so I'm calling my project Training Grounds, and inside of UI, you can just save it in here. Okay, and you're just going to call it whatever you want. For me, I've called it camera switch.s2d, and the .s2d will be added automatically. You don't have to add that. All right. So once you save in here, it's going to create this folder and all these bundled pieces with it. Okay. So yeah. So just make sure you save it first. Okay. Now in this project, all I've done is dragged a couple buttons onto my screen, and it's pretty straightforward. So if you go to widgets, you'll have these different things you can utilize. They're just basically like pre-built buttons or labels or inputs or whatever else. Okay, and what's kind of nice about them is if we drag them on screen, we'll see that they each get a handler, right? So this is the widget handler for this specific widget. Okay, and as you can see, it's calling this script button widgets. Wow, that's hard to say. Button widgets button 3_handler1.lua. Okay, now. And that's really where all the magic is going to happen. And to find that script, we can go into this into our project and go to the button widgets, and we'll see that it automatically just created that for me. So if I dragged another one in here, another widget, we're going to see that there's going to be another thing added. Okay, so where is it? Button handler 3. What's this one called? Button handler 5. Button 5 handler, right? So here's button 5 handler, and this one created button 3 handler 1. So button 3 handler 1, there it is. Okay, so it automatically creates these scripts for you. And one nice thing about Scaleform is that it actually comes with some cheat sheet code. Okay, so basically, if you look here, this code gives you an example, blah blah blah, how to dispatch an event. Okay, so if we just wipe this out, let's just cut this and cut this. Okay, this line right here is really the only one we're going to care about. Okay, all this stuff is already done for us. We don't even have to worry about it. Okay, so all we're going to do is be inputting. So let's get rid of this actor name because that's just a variable. We don't need the variable per se. So we're just going to go name, and we're going to call this my action. Okay, and then when we're in Stingray, my action is going to get called. So we're going to listen for that. First, we're going to register this action, and then we're going to listen for that action. And whenever the button is pressed, this is what's going to be kicked out. Okay. So if you look here, it's saying this is the dispatch. So it's actually going to be dispatching what's in here. Okay. So really straightforward. You could put data in here too. We're not going to do that, but we could put data in there, and then we could have a more robust button. But for this type of thing, we don't really even have to worry about that. Okay. So yeah, that's it. So we're just going to be setting this action to whatever we want it to be. Okay. So that's how that works. And I've already done that, so I'm just going to wipe these out. And I'm going to wipe out these handlers. Not that I have to. Oops. Whoa, that was crazy. I'm just going to wipe out these two because they're unnecessary to me. Button 3 handler 1 and button 5. Those were corresponding to the buttons that I just deleted. I don't want to keep extra scripts that I don't need. Okay, so but let's take a look at the camera that I am using. So this is going to be using button handler 1, And here in button handler 1, we're going to see that, you know, button 1 clicked is what I'm going to be firing out, and button 2 clicked is what I'm going to be firing out. Button 3 clicked is what I'm going to be firing out, and that's really it. This button widget is something totally different. Actually, do I even need that? Yeah, this is the primary button widget, so we don't want to mess with that. Let's just leave that alone. Okay, so so that's it. So again, we're just going to be setting this line and setting it to whatever action we want to call. Just remember, whatever you set this to, we're going to have to register it later. So we want to make sure we remember whatever that is. Okay. So the last thing is this wide angle thing, right? So all I did was same kind of gig. I drug on a toggle button into here, and I'm not actually going to be using the payload on this one either. I'm just going to be using this as a registering of an event, and I'm going to be just firing it when the toggle is switched. Okay, so so yeah, this is going to be the same exact thing. So let's go to projects, let's go to toggle widgets, and we're going to see that in the toggle handler, I'm doing exactly the same thing in this too. Okay, so the only difference is on this one, instead of calling it camera 1 clicked, I'm calling this camera toggle. All right, so really straightforward, nothing complicated. Okay. So that's it. That's all we have to do in Stingray. I mean, I'm sorry, in Scaleform. Stingray is a little bit more complicated, but nothing that's too crazy. Okay, and we're going to do it all with level flow. So it's going to be pretty easy, pretty painless. Okay, so let's take a look at the scene really quick. We've got 3 cameras, and they're just sitting there. Okay, so I've got 3 cameras, and they're just looking at this object, and they don't do anything. This is not to show off cool camera movements. This is just to show how to switch cameras with a button. So really simple scene: camera, camera, camera. Each of them is labeled appropriately. So this is camera 2, this is camera 1, this is camera. Okay, that's it. So let's jump into the level flow and see how we're going to be enabling and affecting these cameras. Okay, so inside of level flow, we have a couple things going on, and let's just start from the beginning. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to want to do is load the level. Okay, once the level is loaded, so this event will fire every time the level gets loaded, and only once. Okay, so this is a single fire event that happens when the level is loaded the first time, and it's really good for initializing your stuff. Okay, so whatever you want to do, where you want to like give it the basics of itself, this is a really good place to do it, because again, it happens right at the start of the level, and it only happens once. Very useful event to initialize your variables and, you know, set up your event listeners and do other things. So yeah, so when the level is loaded, we're then going to say, okay, well, I want to load my project, okay? And if you click this, you'll see that you only get the resources that actually make sense to it. So it's going to be saying, well, which project are you going to be using? Well, we want to use the Scaleform project that we just created. And if you saved it like I told you in the beginning, you'll have it on this list. And whatever you named it will be here in this list. For me, I called it camera switch, so there's camera switch. So I would just select camera switch, and I would be on my way. Okay, so that is going to set up my project, and then you need to call the scene. And again, this is the same kind of thing. It's only going to give you the option of what you've got available. So I want to grab camera switch.s2d scene 0, so that's what I selected. Okay, so really straightforward. And it might even auto set that. I don't even remember if I had to set that. I think if you have it, I think it grabs the first scene automatically. So that's easy, right? And we're just calling the project and saying we're going to load this Scaleform project and load this scene. And now here, this gets a little confusing looking, but really it's not, okay? So this is just called the sequence node. And what it does is it basically just gives us an order of operations. So it's going to do 1 first, then it's going to do 2, then 3, then 4, then 5, etc. Okay, so I guess all these I could have bound to the same, you know, output, but I wanted to make it nice looking, so that's what I did. And it really doesn't make a difference. They all fire so fast in sequence that it really doesn't make a difference. But they are fired in a sequence, so this is a really useful node. And you should try to use it as much as you can, or you should try to do outs to ins. Okay, that's the other way you can do it. But then you go more horizontally. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So basically what's happening from the sequence node is we're going to be doing 3 primary things. And this bottom one we're not really going to worry about, but we'll get to it anyway. I'll just kind of show you what's happening there. So when these fire, they're going to be setting up our event listeners. Okay, and what event listeners are is effectively they are like saying, I know I'm going to be needing this button clicked event, so please know that you have to listen for it. Okay, and that's basically what this does, is it just tells Stingray, hey, these are actions that are going to be coming through from Scaleform. Please make sure you're aware of them. Okay, it's not actually doing anything other than saying there's a good chance I'm going to be using these, right? So I need to know that they're going to be coming to you, okay? So these are called event listeners, and we only have to set them at the start. Once they're set, we'll be using another function to actually call when they're clicked, okay? Or check when they are clicked, okay? So, so that's what these do. And all I did was set these to whatever I set in Scaleform in my button. So if I go to project and go to button widgets and go into button handler, this is what it's looking for again, right? So the same thing that we were looking at earlier is what it's looking for. Okay, so whatever you set this to is what the event listener is going to be listening for. Okay, so button 1 clicked, name equals button 1 clicked. Okay, so again, that's what we're listening for. Now, once we have them all registered, so I've just registered all 4 events. I've got button 1, button 2, button 3, and I've got my toggle. Okay, and that again corresponds to my Scaleform stuff. Okay, so the next thing that I'm doing is more a matter of just making it clean for myself. All I'm doing is I'm taking my level units, which are camera 1, camera 1, camera 2, and I'm applying them to the unit variable. So you can get those unit variables here. So set unit variable, okay? So this is just becoming that. That's really all I'm doing, is just calling camera becomes camera 1 becomes cam 1, camera 2 becomes cam 2. And the reason that I do this is because we can't have 2 level units of the same name, right? So as soon as I put this, we're going to get an error code because I've got 2 level units that are named identically. So Stingray doesn't like that. So rather than having that problem, I just tell it to do this instead. That's being a little weird. Oh well, no big deal. It didn't like that. I didn't. You know what? I'll just delete it, and now if I copy and paste it again, I'll just grab the new level unit again. So camera, level flow, add node, create level camera. So that's exactly why I don't have multiple level units in here. But this allows me to control them as if they were not. Okay, so you'll see in a moment. So camera becomes cam 1. So now I can just use cam here, okay, instead of camera. But, I could have just put camera down here, but then I would have to string it along for all these other ones. And rather than doing that, I like it to be nice and neat and clean. So I just create these variables that become the level unit. Okay, just a really simple way to make your stuff a little cleaner. All right. So there's really again nothing complicated going on here. We're just setting the unit variable to the level unit that we want to set it to. So in this case, I'm setting camera to camera to cam. Camera 1 to cam 1, camera 2 to cam 2. And then I call with get unit variable later on. So this is a get unit, basically exactly the same thing, variable, get unit variable, where is it? Get unit variable. And I just make sure I name it the same thing, so this would be cam, and I can have multiple instances of this now without offending Stingray's level units, okay? So, so just an easier way to manage things, so you don't have strings going everywhere. Anyway, so that's it. So we've set up our variables, and we've got our event listeners working. The next step is to, oh wait, you know what? I told you I would tell you what this does. So I was using, because this is kind of I have like a bunch of projects in here. This is just like my training grounds area. So I was starting with the character template. So it automatically disabled the camera. So I wrote a little Lua script, and this is just a toggle to put my cursor back on screen. Nothing special. I don't want to even get into this because it's really unrelated to camera switching. This was just something that I needed personally because I was using the character template, which doesn't have a cursor. So I needed to be able to enable the cursor, so I wrote a little Lua script and created a custom flow node that toggles my cursor. If you guys are really interested in that, just write it in the comments, and I will try to make a video on how to do that. But that's really a rare case you're ever going to need it. Anyway, so that's what the toggle cursor does. Anyway, so now let's take a look at what happens after we register the events. So what we want to do is now call those events and notice when they're changed. Okay, so what we need to do is create a level update, and we don't need a level update. This is just the easiest way to do it at first. So we're going to use level update, and we're going to check again. We're going to use a sequence node. So the first one we're going to check is this top one. It doesn't really matter the sequence in this case. I could have just strung them all out, but I like to keep it neat, and sequence nodes help do that. So what's happening here is first we're going to check button one clicked, and we're going to do it with this check custom event listener. Okay, so if we go add node and we go into Scaleform Studio, and we're going to go Scaleform check custom event listener, that will give you this guy right here. And then in here we're just going to be selecting the event. So we would want to put button one underscore clicked. And again, this is corresponding to our to the button when it gets clicked. Okay, so this is the same event that we're listening for up here. So button one clicked, same thing. We're just re-entering it down here, and then when the button is clicked, we're going to get this to fire out. Okay, so it'll actually kick out an event now. When it's not clicked, it's just going to die here. It's going to come in and it's just going to die right there. But if the event is clicked while that frame is happening, then this is going to pop through, and we're going to set our camera. Okay, and that's going to set the camera to whatever this unit variable is, which is set up here, which is the unit camera. Okay, so really straightforward. And then we're just going to do that exact same thing for all three cameras. Okay, so 1, 2, and 3. And again, they're all the same. So button 3 clicked goes to camera 2, which plugs it in. And the reason these are offset is because this one is cam 0, effectively, cam 1, cam 2. It was just a mistake in my naming. It's nothing to worry about. But basically, we're just toggling to different cameras based off of which button is clicked. All right, so very straightforward. Now, the last one is the toggle event, and let's take a look at that really quick. Okay, so again, we're not using the payload. If we wanted to use the payload, we could, but it's really unnecessary for a toggle because, again, we're going to either be on or off, and we'll basically, we're using the toggle to toggle a toggle, if that makes any sense at all. So when you switch it, it's going to kick out an event right here. Okay, when it toggles, when you kick out that event, you're going to toggle it. Okay, and this will then go, okay, I want these to go to the top and these to go to the bottom. They're all firing at the same time. I could put a sequence node in here. In fact, maybe I should. So I'm going to go add flow control, sequence. It doesn't really matter. I know that this works because I don't care the order of which these get set. But just to make it clean, let's do this anyway. So bam, and I could probably grab that bottom one. Nope, I can't. Let's just go bam, and let's go bam. Okay, so just so it's not confusing. All right, so if it's even, I want to set all my cameras to the angle of 0.4, so which is going to be a wide angle camera. And if they're not, if it's the next time I click it, it's going to kick out these ones. So this is just, this just sends out a pulse. This is actually doing our toggling. So the first time it's clicked, it's going to be even. Second time it's clicked, it's going to be odd. Third time it's clicked, it's going to be even. And that happens every time I toggle it back and forth. So that's really it. It's really almost so easy that it's hard to actually explain because Yeah, this is just an event that's firing from here, and we're really doing the toggling with the toggle event. So it's pretty straightforward, and I'm just going to make it even like we did it up on top. So flow control, sequence, and I'm going to put these guys here. I'm sorry if I'm not making the most sense. I'm really trying. It's just this stuff is pretty hard to explain. Okay, so let's pull this guy out a little bit, and we should see now that we have the same thing. So again, it fires, and it's just going to set all three of these at the same time, or in sequence. So 1, 2, 3. So this gets fired once. Each one of these get fired when that one is fired. Okay, and we're just going to set all the cameras to the wide angle or the narrow angle. So narrow's on the bottom, wide's on the top. Okay, so that's really the entirety of this tutorial. It's not crazy crazy difficult, and I hope the hardest part to understand is these custom event listeners and the registering of the events. That's really the most difficult part of this. And once you get that, this is really just game logic and how we're handling our game logic. It's all, we could do anything from here. This doesn't have to be a set active camera. This could be, make your character jump or do whatever. You could do anything from this output. This is really just a simple way of showing it off. Okay, so let's see what this actually plays like now that we've seen it all built. And as you can see, I get my weird camera from the start. Again, that's because I'm using the character template. But once I hit cam 1, I go ahead and I look at the record player from this angle. Camera 2, look at it from that angle. Camera 3, look at it from that angle. And then I can go wide angle or close up, right? So once I've chosen close up, it just will toggle it, all right? Really straightforward, and it does what we were hoping to do. So I hope that helps you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the level flow once, and I'm just going to go really slowly through each one of these, just so that you can pause them, and if you have any questions, you can take a better look at how I built each of these parts. Okay, so this was how I initialized the UI. If you want to pause, you can go ahead and do so now. Okay, this is the choose camera. And this is the wide angle, okay? So now you can go ahead and look through these and, pause it here and just take a quick look, and you can really try to understand it. All right, so that's going to end this tutorial. It's getting on in time. I hope you liked this tutorial. If you did, please like it. And if you have any comments or questions, please don't be afraid to ask in the comments window. All right, so I will see you next time, and thanks a lot. Talk to you soon. Bye.